And I will just get started. My name is Crystal Brutlog. I am from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I work with churches and religious nonprofits in communications. So, website, social media, all of that. And in my talks with different pastors and other church workers, I have come up with some questions about why we should actually be on social media as churches, from people who have concerns about that. So I pitched this session just to address some of these questions that I've received, and then also just to talk about different ways that you can use social media, because I'm going to tell you that despite all the concerns you have, we should be on it. So how we can use it, and use it in a way that is beneficial for people. So if you did pick up one of the note sheets, at the top, there is a question. So for those of you who are walking in, I do have it's just a piece of paper that you can write stuff down on that has little prompts. The question that I put at the top of it is, if you have any fears or concerns about social media, just take a minute to think about what those are and jot them down.
Does it matter if I distinguish between personal or church?
No. Yeah, I think both are valid.
Anything we're scared of? Or?
Yeah, any concerns you have or any fears you have regarding social media. And yeah, that can be personal, for your church.
There are 2 seats up here if anybody wants to sit.
All right. Okay. So one question that I've been asked is, why should we be on social media when we know it's made to keep people scrolling? It's meant to keep you addicted and on the app. Attention is one of our highest commodities these days. And so yes, social media is made to be addicting, but there are also a lot of other things that are made to keep you on them. Games on your phone keep you playing. I can't download a game on my phone because I know I'll be on it forever. Netflix automatically plays the next episode. Hulu will actually play a brand new show if you reach the end of the show you're currently watching. And a Spotify-made playlist is hours long. All of these, anything that's fighting for your attention, they're all making money by keeping it, which is why Instagram, Facebook, all of these social media platforms are made to keep you scrolling. So that's just to be expected. I think it's kind of a necessary evil with all of these things. Why should we be on social media when it makes people feel bad about themselves? There's a lot that's been coming out about how the Facebook like button is meant to, make you feel bad. You're meant to compare yourself. There's also just the reality that Instagram versus reality is a real thing. People are curating their lives and putting that on social media. Even on stories, it feels like you have a face-to-face connection with somebody because they're speaking directly to you, but that's still just a couple seconds of their day. But is social media the first thing that has made us feel this way? Magazines, TV shows, movies, and even books have all been doing these types of things to us as well. The difference with social media is it's just right at our fingertips all day long. Where with everything else, you need to seek it out. The best part about social media is that anybody can be on it, which means that you can be on it. And you, either if you have a personal platform or your church's platform, you can be a light in the darkness. You can be a voice of encouragement, and you can help counteract some of the negativity that people are seeing or feeling on their feeds. Another concern I've heard in terms of live streaming, which now most of us are doing, putting worship services online gives people an out for coming to church. One of the favorite phrases of the church is people are made to be in community. So community can be built online, and I think you see that in different places, Facebook groups, different influencers who have created a community around their brand that is supportive and encouraging. However, we've also learned with this pandemic that it doesn't always replace personal connection. And I think, I can speak for myself personally. I'm a very strong introvert. I've always thought if I went out into the woods one day and found a cabin and was by myself, I would be perfectly happy. And the pandemic taught me very different. I actually got to the point where I was like, I really need to start seeing people. But by providing online worship, you are providing someone who isn't a part of your church the opportunity to see how it goes in a safe environment, which is probably their house. Church anxiety is a very real thing that people have, and it is really scary to go check out a new church. You don't know what to expect, you don't know what it's going to look like, how things will work, and by live streaming your worship service, they're able to see how everything happens before they actually step foot in their door. And for somebody who has already reconnected with your church after the pandemic, it gives them a way to connect each week, even if they're not able to attend in person. So if they're on vacation, if they're sick, they're still able to connect. And then it provides your homebound members with an opportunity to continue to connect with their church. I know the churches that I work with weren't online with their worship services until the pandemic. And for one of them, I'm in the Minnesota South District, and we have online worship service district-wide for people or for churches that didn't have one. So we would refer members there, and they're like, that's great, but you're my church. I want to see you. And then for those who choose to continue worshiping online and don't connect in person, they probably have a reason: anxiety, a history of church hurt, chronic illness, maybe work gets in the way of church attendance, maybe they just don't want to. We don't know their reasons. We also don't get to judge their reasons, but don't they still need to hear the gospel? Okay, I have one last question for you. How many of you have family that live in a different state or a different country? Okay. And do you use social media to connect with your relatives? Is it the same as seeing your relatives in person? No. But as I heard recently on a podcast, if I told my mom that FaceTime isn't the same and will wait 6 months for you to see my children, she would slap me. So even though it's not the same to be online as it is in person, there's still a connection that's being made. It's still valuable. We are told to go and make disciples, and it's easier now to go and make disciples than it ever has been before. It's easier to reach our community. If we want to do ads, it's cheaper to reach our community than it ever has been. And our efforts can also reach people in other states and countries. And you are the light of the world, so let your light shine online. In the midst of the darkness, where there are some concerns with social media, be that light to the people in your congregation. So, another concern I've heard is I can't compare my social media efforts with the megachurches that are out there, which is true. Most of us can't. Just remember that megachurches have social media teams. Elevation Church has multiple full-time staff to create content for Elevation and Stephen Furtick's social medias. They're kind of the megachurch that I tune in and out of most often, just to see what they're doing. And they also have larger volunteer teams to assist with them. So photography teams, but if you think about your church's social media needs and what you might be lacking in terms of paid staff, think about the people in your congregation who might have skills that you can tap into. And one thing that I do, because I work with multiple churches, is I make sure that I have a photography team, or at least one person who I can count on to take pictures, because I can't attend every event at every, if I were to try to attend Rally Day at every church, it wouldn't happen. So and one of my churches is out of state. So think of what you need to successfully pull off social media within your congregation and see who might be able to assist within your congregation. And remember that also your church's worship and sermon style might not fit that kind of flashier social media graphic. And also the people who are coming to your church are coming for you. So they don't necessarily want the flashy. Also, it'll give your visitors a glimpse of what they're going to see if you have like bright and flashy social media graphics and then they come in and it's not a bright and flashy worship service. It's a little bit of, false advertising for what they'll get when they come in. So, next, I am part of some communications groups, and this is a very not scientific survey, but somebody on one of them shared, I thought, a great resource of information, so I'm sharing some of that with all of you, where she basically surveyed Christian groups that she's part of, just to see what people are looking for on different social media platforms. She looked specifically at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I took Twitter off. I don't use Twitter personally, but also I don't use it for the churches that I work with just because tweets have such a short life. And I have done different experiments seeing, is this worth the time it takes to schedule? And it never was. So I'm going to focus primarily on Facebook and Instagram. And she broke it down by age group. And this is some of the information, or this is some of the content that they're interested in seeing. So on Facebook, 18 to 25-year-olds, the interesting thing about her survey is that each age group actually scored really high and highest for Facebook as the most used social media platform, which surprised me for some of these younger age groups. I'm assuming that they tend to use some of the ones we'd expect for them to use more, but they're all on it.
Where did you see the samples from?
This is from a church social media group, and it was somebody who just quizzed Christian groups that she was in. So like I said, very unscientific survey, but a lot of people got a lot of value out of it, and I thought it was interesting just to see the information because it was a very recent thing that she did. That on Facebook, they're looking for information, they're looking for text. Oftentimes we want to put up graphics, but text only does and can work. And more about real faith in action. 26 to 35-year-old age group was looking for inspiration and information for their lives, videos, updates, more about personal faith and testimonies. Also, this isn't strictly a Lutheran thing, so. 36 to 45, we're looking for more word-based content, videos, thought-provoking information, encouragement. 46 to 55, we're looking for, again, positive information and shareable content. And over 56, we're looking for just word of the day, short text to a longer article. On Instagram, they're looking for pictures, events for the 18 to 25-year-old graphic, just things that point them to deeper faith. 26 to 35, inspiration and snippet content, videos and pictures, videos without sound. I thought that was funny because Instagram is moving more video-based and you can't just scroll as quietly as you used to sometimes. Graphics, messages of hope, behind the scenes of faith. One thing that I've always found to be great about Instagram is really being able to use that as a behind the scenes look at your church or your life if it's a personal account. For 36 to 45, image-based thought, Bible verses, quotes, information, day in the life. And for 46 to 55, positive, informative content. And over 56, more humor, less formal. And they were to follow accounts that are, for 18 to 25, active, informative, encouraging, will help them build their faith, show beliefs and how they live out the faith, and something that they could share on their social media accounts without feeling cheesy. 25 to 36, again, consistent and helpful content, showing the day-to-day experiences of your church, life stories. I think what we're seeing a lot of here is that they want content that is not just all about your church and the events that are coming up. Regular and relevant content focuses on what a church is doing, role models that they can see. For 46 to 55, encouraging, truthful insights, life-changing posts. For over 56, challenging content that fits my views, personal to me. And they would unsubscribe. This is what I kind of found to be most interesting. They would unsubscribe for posts that are the exact same across all platforms, which we will talk about, too spammy. If there's anything rude, homophobic, political, lack of diversity, they want to see people who reflect them, no lightheartedness. For 26 to 25, if it's too pushy or unnecessary, too preachy, too spammy. Again, negativity, just anything pushing personal agendas, anything anti a people group. 46 to 55, if it's cringe factor in content that's bad theologically, or following the feel-good movement. And again, intolerance for over 56. So my motto when it comes to social media has always been, I want to show community life of the church. I want to share the gospel, and sometimes I want to invite people to church. Now this sometimes I want to invite people to church, that might be weekly depending on how much I'm posting on the account. I just want to make sure that there's a good balance. Social media, I believe, should never be used just as, here's what's happening at my church. You want to provide value for people and just fit into their daily life. Give them something, encouragement, scripture, things like that. That's part of the sharing the gospel. And as you have that in your mix, then you're inviting them to church. Like I said, that can be weekly. And for me, it's always really depended. Like, am I posting most days of the week? If yes, on Friday, I'll invite people to worship. Am I posting a couple days a week? Every couple weeks, I'll invite somebody to worship. Now, if there's a big event coming up, I always say, like, you want to promote your event, especially if the community is invited. You want people to know what's happening. So for big events or big worship services like Christmas or Easter, like, you're going to promote those a little bit more, but really have some balance to it. And then for showing community life, these are like the pictures that you're sharing from the Sundays or events that you have. If you ask questions, I like to ask people questions, and I've had some churches who kind of like, why are we doing that? But if you if you ask your church on Facebook, hey, what Christian songs are you listening to lately? People start to talk to each other. They'll put a song that they like. Other people will be like, oh, that's a good one. And if enough people respond, you can actually build a playlist. We actually did this for one church, and I put together a Spotify playlist, and people loved it. It was a hit. But this is just a way that people who aren't connected to your church yet can see how you're interacting with each other. And for those who are already members of your church who are participating in this, I mean, hopefully they'll make a connection on Facebook that they might not have made in person. I always say this because people ask me, you can always cross-post if needed. I mean, sometimes there are times when things are busy. Sometimes social media is one of the first things that goes if you're really busy with work, preparing other things. So you can cross-post between accounts just to keep them active. But I really like to prepare media that fits each platform. So things that work on Instagram don't always work as well on Facebook, and vice versa. So how many of you do social media for your church right now? Okay. What are the platforms that you're all on? Facebook and Instagram. Okay. And have you found that things work better on different platforms?
Yes.
Yeah. So what are some things that you found that like work on Facebook but not Instagram, or the other way?
Videos are much more for the higher reach on Instagram.
Okay.
And our older generations are typically better followers on Facebook. We don't stream on Facebook, so we try and push YouTube as well.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. You can think of things too, like the carousel posts on Instagram that you start with something and you walk them through a series of images. Those work really well on Instagram. Where on Facebook, they just show up as a block of images. So thinking of things that way, there have been times that if, like, you know, there isn't a whole lot of time, I'll use the same content on each social media platform. I'll just do a carousel post to walk people through it on Instagram, whereas on Facebook it'll be kind of a standard image with more text. So, and now with Instagram, with Reels, trying to get pastors to start doing some Reels. But really just taking some time to scroll through Reels and see what's out there, and you can kind of see what people are doing. And just seeing, like, for if you have an event, just taking some video footage of your event, putting it up as a reel. If you see, like, a trending sound on Instagram, that would just be a lot of fun to do a church version of. I'm thinking in particular, there's that, how many of you watch Reels on Instagram? There's that Italian one. Have you guys seen that one? Things that make sense if. I really want to do a church version with that one. I find them to be really annoying, but I want to do a church version. So just trying out different things, seeing what each platform specializes in, and then really catering your content to each one. That way people will, who have multiple things, will also follow you in multiple places. And then just have fun with it all. Like, social media should be fun. It shouldn't be the hard place that it becomes sometimes. So, and I was actually just talking to somebody about this. Churches need to show their fun side a little bit more. She and I were working through a job title, and we landed on one. She's like, "Is that too fun?" And I said, "No, I think it's great because you know, sometimes everything seems so serious." She said she even has some younger students who are like, "Did Jesus ever laugh?" Because like, everything's just always so serious. So really use social media and have fun with it, and show that, like, yes, there is a serious side to religion and our faith, but it's also a lot of fun, and you can have fun with it. So for people who had questions and concerns about social media, what are some of the questions that you had? Yes?
How much is too much to post?
So typically you'll see for Instagram posting like once a day. Some people will do it twice a day and just do like a morning and evening. Same for Facebook. I think it really depends on, they'll say do it daily if you can and have that consistency. I try to do like a 5-day-a-week thing if I can. Otherwise, if I don't have the content or I don't have the time, like I'm not allotted the time from the church, I'll space things out. I don't want everything to come out on one day. So I'll try to find a good schedule for it, whether that's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. You don't want to do too much. Like, consistency is key, so having a schedule, posting 5 days a week if you can, that's always ideal. It keeps you in people's feeds. It keeps people interacting with you, which increases the possibility that you'll be shown because, you know, organic reach, especially on Facebook, is like 2%, less than that. But the more people engage with you, the more you'll be shown. So, yeah, I feel like for churches it really depends on the manpower that you have to put into it, but just make sure it's consistent. I wouldn't do more than like 2 posts a day. I try to stick to 1 post a day because that's usually what I see people feel comfortable with. And just doing it as consistently as possible. And have a schedule for content. So create a content calendar. Does everybody know what a content calendar is? So that you know what's coming up, you can work ahead. And then you can have like different days scheduled. So Wednesday is usually my sermon snippet day where I post a quote from sermons and link back to the worship service where people can hear more. Friday will be like an invitation to worship for some churches. One church we have Discipleship Friday because their mission statement is all about making disciples. So we have a prompt to help them in either in their journey of making disciples or in their own, journey of being discipled themselves. So you can have little themes like that to help find ways to create content, because that's kind of the hardest thing, I think, as well, knowing how much to post, but then what to post, and that just makes it easier. Yes.
I've been doing our social media at the church I go to since last September, and what we started this year was Ministry Monday. And so at the beginning of the year, we focused on a ministry our church has. And then every Monday, we did Stephen Ministry in January. So we talked about our program, and then we highlighted people every Monday, two leaders and two ministers, and took their picture and then described why they're part of that program.
Oh, that's really cool.
People really love that.
Yeah, I think anytime you can highlight the members of your church, this is something that I'd really like to start doing with some of my churches, but they've been a little slow to move in that direction. Anytime you can highlight the people, I think it makes them feel valued, but it, again, just shows the life of your community. You're pointing out different people and the things they're doing, and others can gain encouragement and ideas from each person's individual faith walk. Yes?
What's a good length of, say, content or video, or so that you don't lose people's attention?
So they say about 3 to 5 minutes is a good, especially for Facebook, is a good amount to put up. I tend to gravitate toward shorter. Yeah, I always think that's a little long. I think, again, that's a thing to keep you on it, but I tend to gravitate toward shorter things, like 1.5 to 2 minutes. It doesn't have to be long, because people aren't going to spend a lot of time looking at it. Also, make sure it's captioned, so that if people are at work, they still see what you're doing. So I'd go shorter. Reels have a max, on Instagram, have a max of a minute. So, yes.
So, hot button issue around our parts, and I've had a lot of people ask me my opinions on it too, is how many accounts should your church have? So, we have a church account, a school account, a youth ministry account, should those all be one? Because they're all one ministry.
Yeah.
But the youth content is only applicable to the youth. The school content is applicable to the school. What's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that, how many people, do you have separate people who are posting for each one?
Theoretically.
Okay. Because my first rule of advice is always just take on what you can handle, in terms of the workload. And for yours, you have really different content for each. I always start with one account, but if there's a need, if the youth want their own account and this is 100% geared toward the youth and it's different stuff on, you're putting different content on it, then go ahead and have the youth account. I actually think a youth run account would be awesome. Get them involved in that way. And if you're school, I think separating church and school is fine. But I think, Seth, right? You work for church and school, don't you? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we keep them separate.
Okay.
For reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just totally different audiences.
Yeah.
Because we have school parents who are not
Members.
church, and they
Yep.
want their daycare at the school.
Yep.
Same.
And yeah.
It's just who's the audience.
Yeah, and your church members aren't necessarily going to need to see all the pictures of the kids that you're posting, or get, the announcements for the school that you'd be sharing that way. So I think having the separate audiences for those two, the place where I start to question whether we need it is if you have for the church, a church overall and a youth, but if they're both active and they're both being used in different ways, I think it's great, and keep it up because you'll connect with the youth in a different way, and
Can I just
that's
ask,
awesome.
where's the hot button? Where do you fit?
So I want to get rid of my youth page, but keep my church and school separate.
Because why?
The youth page isn't used.
Okay.
I don't want to get rid of it. It's just
Yeah.
effective.
If it's not being used, then there's no point in having it.
I have had this conversation 40 different times with people of, should you have just a church and school page, or a church page and a school page?
Right. Well,
Yeah.
from my perspective with marketing, my concern is if we have a football page and a basketball page for our high school and a volleyball page, the photos are awful. The grammar
Yeah.
is sometimes questionable. The spelling goes kaboom. And then who do they come back to? Well, since I manage the school page, they come back and get me.
Yep.
So that's why I was really curious about how you're going to answer and how you rein that all in when it explodes like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I would just say, like, as the church staff, we're going to have, in your case, like, the youth account isn't being used. It's not effective. We don't have the manpower to run it separately. So, this one's done.
Is the goal of them having the youth page to promote your youth group in your church, or for the youth to look at?
I have absolutely no clue. I inherited it.
Okay.
I
Okay.
literally just found the password for it like a month ago, and I'm the youth and digital guy, so
Yeah.
it's fine to kill. I just,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I would just say it's not being used. I'm going to go through it, and then I'll go with you.
So an option might be to keep everything under the umbrella page of the church, but then to have a group created by the church. So there's a youth Facebook group, because I think a group would lend itself more to engagement,
Yeah.
than a page does. So maybe
Yep.
that would be, but it still doesn't solve your issue of having someone
multiples.
take ownership of it
Yeah.
and post meaningful, engaging
Yeah.
things there. But that way you can have subgroups, all under that.
Yeah.
blanket
Yep.
of the
Yeah.
church.
Yeah. And you had a
Yeah,
question?
so I have, coming from the other side of this topic is, we have an early childhood center that we're trying to bridge the preschool with the church
Okay.
for church growth. And so it's kind of opposite what you guys are talking about. So my question to you is like, how could you like temper the post? So it's like school, and then here's some church. How would you separate all of that?
What I would do is keep them both separate, and I actually do work with a church that has a preschool. It's not the church's preschool, but the preschool uses the building. So, in that way, it also doesn't make sense to have them combined. But we have, like, the preschool page, which the pastor would actually like to get me on, but the board is really slow in getting into social media. And then the preschool board. And then we have our church page. And what we do is, the pastor actually is on the daycare page though. So sometimes if like I have posted videos of him with the preschool, I've gotten permission to do that on the church page. And so then he'll cross post that and he'll share it. Like he'll share the post from our church page on the preschool page. Or if we see something on the preschool page that we really like, we'll share it. So you can do those things as well, like have the two separate pages, but just share between the two when there's something like
Because our church
that you want to share.
we're connected, like
Okay.
we're not separate. And then the other question I had is, what about like newsletters? So our social media person does all our newsletters like through MailChimp?
Yeah.
And then he'll post the link. I mean, I'm just wondering, like, do you think that's like, too much?
No.
Okay.
I don't. No, people, if they want to read your newsletter, they will be on the list and they'll ask to be on the list. So I wouldn't do that, no.
Okay.
So the smartest thing I did in regards to your newsletter question, the smartest thing we did is we created, so we have a main school page. If you search our school, you're going to find it, you can follow it. I created a private First Lutheran Families Facebook group that you have to request to be a part of, and that is all of the everyday parent.
That's another good thing. If it's the school newsletter in particular, you don't necessarily want all of that information public on your Facebook page. And then depending on what you put in a church newsletter, like if you put birthdays, dates like that, you also want to be careful about sharing that because some people won't want that online.
Permission from parents, so that the
Yeah.
school
Yeah.
can go to push their kids
We
in.
do that
Yeah.
at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
it's on our first enrollment.
Yep. Yeah. Have a waiver.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had a question for you. Is there any way to tap into some of your youth, like you were saying, to not empower them to take over the youth space? My only reason to push on that is because most of that age group right now, you will find them like 167 hours a week
On social media.
like,
Yeah.
checking social media, and that's where they're at, and that's where you want to meet them. And like creating content that will, you know, as you were saying, like not necessarily pointing them over to youth group, but like creating content that they will consume and they will actually engage with. So I would just like encourage you to try to find somebody that can help. Not necessarily saying like take over, like I feel you, like we can't really do it all. Like there's so much.
Yeah.
But just highlighting the importance of specifically that age group. They are on Instagram, they are on TikTok, like
Yep.
that's where you will find them, and it's really cool to, you know, be able to see them there.
Yep. I just to coming off of that, I actually just helped a church set up an Instagram account specifically because they had youth who wanted one. And I was really excited about this. We were talking ideas like if you scroll through Reels and you see people putting a day in the life, they're like, oh, we could do a video of like Wednesday night at youth group and put that up. So it is adults who are actually posting the content, and there is an approval process. The pastor has to approve the posts. And I would definitely say that, like, make sure adults are involved, that the adults are posting. That way they can also manage any messages that might come in. And they're getting waivers for all the youth who are involved, of course, and have that approval process. But if any of you has the opportunity or feels inclined, like, I just think that's really exciting because, like you said, it empowers the youth. They're already doing it. And to give them that piece of ownership over something that is, you know, public for people to come see, can make them feel important and like a necessary part of the church.
Church, DC, one of our DCs is like the one who runs the page for the youth. Because like we couldn't take on the church one, and, you know, but she like took over it, and she's like, she knows the youth and she knows what they're looking into. She's young, and that's been working out great. But yeah, definitely get approval.
Yes. And then you can also use this as a stewardship opportunity or like a discipleship opportunity to teach them like how to use social media and how to use it in a good way. There was a question in this area. Oh, right there.
You said you want to show community life and you want to provide value. So give some examples of things that you think, and you're saying if you can't be consistent on your account, it's better not to do it. Like if I can't be consistently posting, people will get tired of my account, or they'll say, well, we don't know when they're going to post.
So by that I mean, no matter what, you should have a Facebook account, and you should try to update that even if it's like once a week. You need to have a Facebook account because the first things people will look at are your website and Facebook. Once you are consistently updating Facebook, that's when you should add in like Instagram or another social media platform. I think it's not necessarily going to do more harm. I don't know, that like if you have one that's sitting, like I would at least get the account and have the name. But like there was one church I created the account and I haven't promoted it yet because I wanted to make sure I was actually posting consistently in it before I promoted it. Just because once you do stop, just the way the algorithms work, your reach goes down and you kind of have to rebuild the reach again. So yeah, I'd say wait until you like get on top of one platform before you move on to another.
Like a video, like a sermon.
Okay. Okay.
So I mean, so it's not like an everyday thing. It's like once a week we're going to do a 2-minute sermon preview.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's content to put on.
I feel like even if you're not going to post consistently, to be able to download, like let's say Business Suite, where you would receive a notification, because if you have a communication come through that's public, positive or negative, you want to be able to respond
to it.
If somebody's asking a question, where is your church? You know, like, or
Yep.
or something that's down.
Yeah.
Have like the, you know,
Yeah, so-
they're looking at like if anybody goes on the actual page and says Hey, we have a question. You know, we had somebody just had a question about God, and then he came, and the pastor said, well, that's a good question. The short answer is no, but if you really want to know more, come. So we came, and we got baptized.
Oh, that's awesome. And another thing you can do when questions like that come in is just have the pastor film a quick video. And it can be as simple as like, here's my selfie video. I actually found that there's one pastor that anytime I put him on video for a promotion, he does a selfie video. And people love those more than they like anything else that we do. So, another thing, just one quick comment related to having the business suite is, well, soon, if you don't already have the business suite, you're going to have to, because they're transitioning pages into profiles on Facebook. And once your page transitions, like 3 of mine have and 3 haven't, once your page transitions, you're going to have the business suite in order to post. But also, once you have this profile, you're actually going to be able to follow people if you'd like. So you can follow the people who follow your page, and then if you're scrolling through your pages or your profile, your church profile's feed, you'll be able to comment on people's posts as the church. So, which is kind of cool. Like, you can connect with people. It'll show that it's your church. It'll put a follow button next to it. The one thing I would say is, like, if somebody posts something personal, like a personal update, and you say, like, hey, we're praying for you, that you actually pass that information on to the pastor so that he is aware and people don't assume he knows because you commented. So, like, think through things like that and what procedures you'll need to have in place. You had a question?
You mentioned earlier about promotions.
Mm-hmm.
Promotions, or how else? What else were you talking about?
Yeah, so the main thing I was talking about was any sort of just promotional post, even if you're not paying for it. But paying for it, you can advertise to your community by paying for an ad cheaper on Facebook than we've ever been able to do on like billboards or newspapers or anything like that. A little goes a long way. We have one church that just constantly, I think it's like $15 or $20 a week. We just constantly have an ad going to reach out to the community. Boosting is different. So boosting, if you go into the ads manager on Facebook, you walk through this whole like marketing style ad thing. It's not quite as intuitive. Like if you boost the post, basically what that's doing is it quickly sends you through a payment system, and then it's just going to show your post as much as possible. Whereas with, you can do some targeting if you boost it, I think, but it's going to be more effective if you're going through Ads Manager. You're going to get a lot more reports to see how well it performed and what you need to do again in the future, or what you should change in the future.
I'm saying you can do a little like commercial or something for like $20 a week.
Yep.
The Ads Manager.
Yeah, you can put in kind of whatever budget you want. They'll let you know if it's too small. You get to choose a radius.
You can get like creepy specific.
You can get really specific.
Like, okay, I want
Yeah.
women in the city next to me who are 18 to 24 who
Yep.
follow this page,
Yep.
like this, and I'm going to put $20 to get that.
To get that.
About how many people you're
Yep. Just know when you're doing your targeting that people can find out why they're seeing the ad, and it'll show what you did for targeting. So there's that one a couple years ago that went around. It was a church in Kansas, I think, that targeted like 100 people who made 100,000 plus. So that does not look good. So just make sure that whatever you're targeting, you know that people can see that information if they want to. It's like from the drop down, why am I seeing this ad? And it'll, because you are within these demographics, and that's what they targeted. So keep that in mind. But yeah, you can get really specific.
I mentioned something in my kitchen, and I don't even have Alexa, but I see that ad on Facebook.
Well, you could do that too, actually, if you do the Facebook Pixel. You can put the Facebook Pixel on your website, and then people who leave your website, you can target ads at them if you'd like. Yes?
What are your thoughts on TikTok? Like, have you had any studies show how effective that app is with Gen Z especially?
I haven't looked into that recently. I would be all for it. honestly, any social media platform that's out there, especially if it's going to reach a younger generation, I'm all for trying it out if you have the manpower to see how that works. Yeah. And I think that would be a great one because they're like flooding it. Not Twitter. Yeah. That's the only social media platform I'll tell you to stay off is Twitter. I found that that most churches have left it because a tweet has a life of maybe like 30 seconds, if that. So really, and you have to be posting, like the only time I've ever seen Twitter be effective was when I worked with a blogger and we literally posted a tweet every hour for 12 hours each day. That was a lot of work, and I don't think she even does that anymore. But you really have to be posting regularly in order for anything to be seen. And I've done a couple just links that I can track to see if anybody ever clicked on them, and nobody ever did. So also Twitter is being talked more and more about how toxic it can get, just in rhetoric with people and in the different industries that I've followed on Twitter. I'm a writer, so I used to be on Twitter personally for the writing community, and even that community has just gotten so toxic on Twitter. It just seems to lend itself to fights when a tweet is actually seen. So yeah. Yes.
She had a question, actually.
Okay.
We work in a very small church and school. We're talking 80 kids.
Mhm.
So we only have the one social media or we have Facebook and Instagram, but just the one account.
Mhm.
So there are times that we're stuck in the office, so we're relying on teachers to send us content. And there's times where I may have content, something for every day, but then there's times that I have nothing. So I'm posting I call it the fluff, like a daily Bible verse or something. But then I've been told that by doing that, I'm not connecting with the school families if I'm just posting Bible verses. But I don't have any content for school families. So what's the worst of two evils? By posting the wrong content or by posting no content? If that makes sense.
Yeah. So how often are you posting kind of the fluff content?
There's times where I don't have to do anything for a while, but then there's been times where it's I have to do it every day for 2 weeks because I'm just not getting anything from
It's
just
anybody
an
else.
e-card of just a Bible verse,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say at that point, if you're getting into a span of time where it's every day for a couple of weeks, you could pull back a little bit. There are just naturally times for a lot of places where you're not going to have content, and posting a little bit to keep it updated I think is good, but you're not overrunning it. Yeah.
Message, email. Text me a picture of a field trip or an art project, PE, recess, something,
Can we develop
Also-
a social media calendar that asks for specific, for this week it's first grade, for next week it's second, or something like that? Even it out?
I tell them, I told the teachers I want just give me something once a week. If I have something once a week from each teacher, then I have something every day for content. But doing that with them, it's like pulling teeth.
Are you allowed in the room?
Yeah, that was my other question.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I'm the business manager, but I'm also the school secretary.
Yeah.
So it's leave the office.
I was going to say, is there somebody in the office who you could send out? Because sometimes you might have more control over, another admin in the office or a principal. Or a volunteer, yep. If your school has volunteers, send them out and have them get some pictures. I used to work at a school, and there were times I'd be I just need to leave for a minute so that I can run into chapel and take a picture, so I can run down to a classroom.
Since we're so small, everybody's wearing various hats.
Yeah.
And it's we've got people, they just don't want to volunteer. They don't want to do anything more than they're already doing. And I understand.
Yeah.
But I'm okay, look, I'm already filling these 3 hats, and I'm trying to do social media because nobody else would do it otherwise. Just send me a picture.
Yeah. I would say then just continue to be persistent. I found that if I want something and people aren't getting it for me, I just mention it every time we talk, and then they start to do it. Yes.
Is it possible that you could just create more fluff that's school related?
Yeah.
School has a mission, values.
Yep.
just create items that you can use that are school related. Because if the problem is they don't like the church fluff, just make some stuff.
Make some other fluff.
You have a bank of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was doing social media for a theater group, and there was big droughts because they'd start rehearsals, you'd be excited, and then have a drought, and then have a performance. So I went to the archives and scanned it, literally scanned in a bunch of slides, and just started posting a Throwback Thursday. Do you know anyone in this photo?
Yes.
What production was this?
Yep.
I do. I have the information. But people went crazy.
Yeah.
I was in that, and I remember, and
then they'll share it.
Whenever I had a drought, okay, here's a Throwback Thursday post.
Another thing you can do is post articles, like child development related articles. That's providing value. So here's this really great article on why children should sleep. Whatever.
So we've also had some success by like scheduling outlook appointments with them. So like meet with the teacher and say like what time works best for you to be able to break your schedule throughout the week. And then I put a calendar around that says send me photos. So it's a constant prompt for them to be like, oh yeah, I can do that right now.
Or maybe even like with the age range of your grades, like we have a K through 12, and so the elementary and the high school have their own yearbook group that's student run, and maybe you could diversify where there still can be just content as well for social. Like if you have 8th graders or 12th graders, they could also take on some responsibility because they might really own it.
Yeah. Sure, thank you. Media Hub.
I like to some of the older kids something for you to post.
Okay.
Yeah, I get pictures from some of the kids. A lot of them have phones. When I worked in the school, they had nicer phones than the staff had. So. Yeah, exactly. Like, here's my new phone. Like,
In my day.
Yes.
And I don't think it's bad to post a Bible verse every day.
Yeah, I think that's worthwhile content every once in a while.
If it applies to the students.
You could do like the Bible passage that they talked about in the memory verse, or what was covered in chapel, and ask your students what we learned about this today, or do you have like a Bible passage for the year?
Yeah.
Post that sometimes, talk about that, or if it's a longer one, post different pieces of it.
Would posting a daily devotion be too much?
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
For the school page, you mean?
Yeah. Or for the church page.
On the church page.
You do a daily devotion?
And I was pulling from 3 different ones.
Okay.
To kind of gauge to see where people were.
Mhm.
And then I dropped down to 2. And
Okay.
someone said, messaged me, well, why did you drop this one?
Really?
Where did that go?
That's awesome.
So I said, it'll be back, don't worry.
Okay.
What I found is
just
it may not.
the 2, and someone else messaged me, why is there only the 1? I said, I'm just kind of taking a survey here.
Okay.
I'm figuring it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
A daily devotion.
You do a daily one?
Day and how much time I have.
Okay.
It might be 2 different devotions, it might be 3.
Okay.
And then I always
A day?
use a day.
Okay.
Well, 3 morning devotions, sometimes, most of the time it's just 2.
Okay.
And then there's an evening devotion.
Oh wow. Okay.
And they're very short.
Mhm.
Most of them are out of Portals of Prayer, Lutheran Hour Ministries, and I don't remember the other one.
Okay.
Well, it connects with the members of the church because they comment and talk about it and
Okay.
like it and all
Yeah.
that. It may not be focused to outsiders.
Yeah. I mean, if you're doing it and it's working, like as with there are no rules to social. There are no rules to social media. So, like, my first thought is that would be a little too much. But if it's working for your church and your page, then keep doing it.
I do a daily devotion, but it's based on the sermon.
Okay.
So like, our sermon on Sunday was about love.
Mhm.
So the whole week is about love.
Okay.
And so even if you weren't at the church or you weren't at our service on Sunday,
Yeah.
you know we talk about love.
Mhm.
So if you look at and then we have a little devotion after the scripture.
Okay.
And then I put our our logo on it, and our mission statement is on everything that goes out.
Okay.
So it's very consistent branding.
Yeah. Nice.
I also post quite a bit from Kelly's Treehouse.
Okay.
Today was good morning, it's Friday, may your day begin with a smile on your face, love in your heart, and peace within your soul.
Okay.
Have a safe and happy Friday.
Okay.
And usually there's some sort of picture, this is kind of cartoonish,
Mhm.
but a lot of them are not.
Okay.
And then, depending where I am at noon, Toby Mac almost always gets a post in between 12 noon and 1.
Okay.
And there are people that will call me. They don't message me,
They call you if you don't share it?
and I said, just put in Toby Mac. I'm not at home, I can't do it right now.
Yeah.
Just put in Toby Mac, search, and you'll get it.
Okay. And that's all on your Facebook page?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
What programs are you like using to create the content? Are you making graphics?
That's not a stupid question at all. I use Photoshop. I'm partial to Adobe, but Canva is a great option. And I've heard that it's really easy to use. I have tried it, and since I know Adobe so well, I can't use Canva. I'm like, how do I do this? There is a free version. There's also some features that are paid. However, there is a nonprofit thing, and I'm pretty sure the nonprofit is free.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Canva is the whole group of free stuff is great to use. If you can get Canva for nonprofits, they will give it to you for free, but they don't always like to do it for churches.
Okay.
So if you write your application to them, you have to ask for it, and you talk about your impact in your community,
Okay.
and less about your religion,
They'll go for it.
higher success rate of getting approved for it.
That's a good tip.
Same lie. I'm just saying.
Yes.
Also,
Also-
you have a even larger selection of free.
Yeah. And also, if you're looking for free stock photography, look at places like Unsplash, Pixabay. You'll find some stuff there. I'm into photography, so I always try to use my own just because I am really paranoid about copyright. I'll go to like Unsplash and get images there when I need to, or when my creativity is kind of tapping out. I can easily search for what I want there instead of going through my stuff. But that's a good question. Yeah, I also know people who have used PowerPoint. I would suggest Canva over PowerPoint, but I know people who have done that.
Poster My Wall is also really good for Poster My Wall, and it's not making like flyers, but you can create custom graphics, and they're linked to Pixabay.
Okay.
So you can get pictures from them and stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, that's another big thing though. If you're using imagery that isn't yours, make sure that you have the right to use it, and that means you also shouldn't use Google Images because most of that is probably not copyright. Yeah, I've even heard with Unsplash or Pixabay, you should do a reverse image search just to make sure. But I guess that depends on how. I don't know what the statistics are about that. Basically, how many people have run into issues with finding something that actually wasn't copyright free.
Music licensing too.
Right.
Mhm. Yeah.
Or else you're gonna get paid.
Yeah. Yes.
Just to hear what everybody is using, what third parties content scheduling platforms like YouTube or.
Mhm. Yeah, I have used Hootsuite and Buffer. For Facebook, I just use Facebook. I found that if you can use the native scheduler, that's just always best. And I have not actually scheduled anything for Instagram yet. Actually, I do. Sometimes I do. But for Instagram, I prefer to actually set a reminder and post it because I want to make sure that I get my hashtags. And so...
We use Linktree, and I really like it. It's really friendly, and you can schedule to multiple platforms.
Nice. Yeah.
So, which, like you said, you shouldn't always do the same thing, but you can pick the platforms or you can do
Yep.
both for something specific. And I like it because you can see the calendar.
Yes.
So I can see what posts, if we have an event coming up in March, I've already created the post that's a week out and 2 weeks out from the
Yep.
event.
Yeah.
And that way I know not to throw other content onto those days.
Mhm.
So that's what I like about it, is I can scale of what's being
Okay.
posted.
Yep. Yeah, you can do that on Facebook now too in the business suite. I really like that feature. You can see what you've posted and what you have scheduled, and that is really nice.
If you have Canva, the nonprofit pro version too, they have their own scheduler too.
Okay.
That you can go right
Yeah.
from designing to scheduling it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Any other questions?
Be sure and post your events on Facebook too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and use the event feature so that it shows up for people who are nearby. This is happening in your neighborhood, yeah. Yep. And, you can also use hashtags on Facebook now, and they're actually starting to encourage you to do that a little bit more. So, for using hashtags, I think a good mix of Christian hashtags and local hashtags, and I just keep a list in the notes on my phone so that I can copy and paste easily. Yeah. And switch them up every once in a while so that each post has different ones. That way it's not just the same thing each time. They don't like that. Just make the Instagram people happy or the Facebook people happy. That's what we spend our lives doing. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. All right. Good discussion. I always like to see what other people are doing with social media. Yeah. Any other questions? The baby. All right. Well, if you ever have questions, if you took a note sheet, my email address is at the bottom, so you can contact me.
Where were they?
They were right there. You're welcome. I also have a business card if you'd like. I can give that to you.
Say what?
Business card?
Business card. That would
Yes.
be great.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome. I would be, yes. Yeah. If you,
Okay, it wasn't until after I picked it
Okay.
up, I was like, I should have gotten the other ones that I
Yeah, definitely.
actually wanted, but it was so big.
yeah.
I was like,
Let me, I have my phone over here.
and then I regretted it.
sent you a message.
Do you want a hat?
Oh, okay. I'll take a look at that.
Yeah, I don't have room for any of this either.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I will do that. I will, let me open it all up here. Yes.
No, that
I'm in Minnesota. So where are you two located? Houston, okay. Yes. I have a message.
Have you? Okay, so do you know where they are? So they're a booth. So you know.
I am always willing to travel. You don't have to. It's, the church that I work with in Colorado, I worked with that pastor for about a year. I flew out. He was doing an urban ministry in Denver. And then he ended up taking a call at a church in Breckenridge, and I actually just flew out there this summer for the first time. So I don't have to be on site, but I'm also willing to, and it does give me, it is helpful. I'm able to guide him more when see you later, Maddie. I'm able to guide him more when, if I want a specific image. If we're working on a video thing, since I've seen it in person, I kind of have a better sense of how to guide him. So it does help, but it's not a necessity to come visit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I just
Yeah.
figured if we were, we
That's what I mean, like I
take
can
charge
talk
of
about
our
scheduling.
Yeah.
social media.
Yeah.
and it's
Okay.
so much of your staff.
Yeah.
We have a combo, we have a preschool, we have two preschools.
Okay, thank you.
Two preschools they're close by.
Okay, yeah.
And then there's the church. And so right now we have a Facebook page for each preschool because it's two different demographics.
Mhm.
It's two different things. Do you think that's okay? Or should it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think if it's two different demographics, you're speaking to two different audiences. Yep.
It is, yeah.
Yep. So who's your audience, and if it would be both, then you'd only want one, but since it's separate, you'll want two, yeah.
Right.
But that is a lot then.
It is.
It is a lot to have to maintain.
Well, what's happening is if we're really consistent.
Yeah.
sometimes like stuff gets posted and it's relevant for both or all three.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not.
It's not,
So
yeah.
It's kind of like we're throwing Jello at the wall. Like we don't know.
And we want
Yeah.
to kind of, who we're trying to reach is like our demographic, like, you know, younger, like people our age, and then also moms.
Okay.
Preschools, trying to reach that demographic to come to church, and we're getting our children's church back and trying to get people in the door, like trying to get our preschool families
Yes.
to come to service.
Yeah,
So
that is a hard thing. I was actually just talking to somebody who had the same earlier today, because I had another one this morning, and he had the same thing. He's like, I have this preschool, like, what do I do? And yeah.
demographic is just a little bit older right now. It's like
Okay.
we're getting younger generations in there, but it's for the most part it's like our parents.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're just trying to get everything.
Yes.
Okay. Well, this was great. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I really love your hair. It's very, like, I love the fun and the color, but it's also subtle.
Yeah, like when I first did it, she didn't put in. I think she was afraid. The person who does my hair. So I was like, put in more purple.
Yeah.
So then she did, and I liked it. But then it was too dark, so I was like, put in more blonde.
Yeah.
So she's like, ah.
Yeah. It looks great. I love it. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, and I will be in touch.
Yes, that would be amazing. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
You're welcome. Okay.
Someone got onto our church page, and our church page is through our account.
Okay.
My account, my personal account.
Okay.
So what you were saying is that they're phasing that out.
Yes. So, yeah. So you right now log into your, so you'd still log into your account, but you know how, like, right now if you log in, you see, like, the churches, and you can go to your church page and you can post and everything from your profile?
Actually, I never log out.
Okay.
I just
Of the
did
church one?
Well, the church one, I mean, I've got it under my groups,
Okay.
and that's how I put it.
Oh, so is this a group, or it's a group?
It's a
Okay.
group.
So the group will remain the same way that it is.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So this is specifically for the pages. So, like, the one where, like, I'm assuming most people can post to your group, or is it only certain people?
Well, not anymore, because
Okay.
we had someone come in and put some really naughty stuff in.
Okay.
And then had some responses to it. It just kind of blew up.
Okay.
So I stopped that.
Okay.
And I think I'm ready to go back, because anything that's posted here can't be shared.
Yeah.
And that includes even our service.
Okay.
Because we do Facebook Live.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually, he can't do it through the Garber or our church group.
Okay.
He has to do it under us, and then we post it
Okay.
to the church group is what we end up doing.
Okay.
So what I was wondering, I cannot remember because it's been long enough now, how I go in, and I suppose it's in settings and privacy.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm wanting to put it back in, open things up again so that people can post on
Post it. Okay. Let's see.
They can comment on things on any of the posts,
Okay.
but they can't always, or they can't, and we just can't share anything.
Okay.
There will be people whose mothers or grandmothers are homebound, and they get too confused if they have to look someplace besides their account.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, and I taught everyone at the beginning, you know, make sure you post it.
Yeah.
Or, what is it called when you put their name on it? Like if I wanted to make sure my daughter saw this,
Oh.
I would put her name on it.
Yeah. Oh, tagging them.
Tagging, thank you.
Yep. So your group is called Garber Emmanuel Lutheran Church. Okay, let's see. Your groups. We have Garber Emmanuel. Let's see.
Because I have racked my brain over it.
Group settings. Let's see. General privacy. Who can post? So you'd like anyone in the group to be able to post again? Or still only admins?
Still only admins.
Okay.
I think, but we want to be able to share it.
To share it. Okay. Let's see.